We're going to ask next that the candidates for the U.S. Representative District 11 please come on the stage. And as they do that, we do have some other races that are going to be decided in the general election ballot. And one of those is mosquito control. And we actually have a number of those mosquito control candidates with us tonight. And I'd ask that you take the time, I hope some of you did beforehand, but when things are over, I hope you spend some time and talk to these candidates. But let me just go ahead and introduce them. We have Arthur Green. Arthur, Arthur's in the back. Very good. Thank you for coming. Albert Jordan is here. Albert, I know you're here. Albert's in the back also. We have lights shining at us. We don't see much. Steve Pochus is here. Where's Steve? Steve's right down. He's waving his arms. He's right there. And then we have Robert Waters is also with us. Where's Robert? Back there also. Okay. Well, thank you, candidates, and make sure that you stop and we'll get to this. We'll get to the set. There's a whole other seat on mosquito control. We'll get to that in a minute. But right now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to move to the U.S. Representative District 11 race. We have two candidates. We have the incumbent, Representative Daniel Webster, and challenger Dana Carroll. So, I'm slipping. Let's go ahead and we're going to begin. Again, the format will be 3-minute opening statements. We'll have 3 questions and then a 1-minute close, and we will start with Representative Webster. You will begin.
Well, thank you so much. Citrus Chronicle, thank you for doing this. Thank you for all of you for showing up. It's really great. It's good to come and share our wares, give what we believe is right. In this opening, I'd like to talk about 2 things that I do. One is I do things that happen in the district. We've got 750,000 people in a 5-county area, and there's a lot of things that need to be done there. Then I'd like to talk about a little bit about Washington, D.C. I didn't come to defend the United States Congress, but I did come to tell you about it. First of all, I spend a lot of my time when I'm in the district visiting everything from Habitat for Humanity to Boys and Girls Clubs to high schools to 501c3 to chambers of commerce and so forth to find out what's going on in the district, because I think it's very important. The other is, though, we have a staff, and most congressmen have most of their staff in Washington. I don't. I have it reversed. I have almost 70% of my staff live and work in the district, and they hopefully, and they do, find the needs and then help interface with the federal government. I know this will be a shock to you, but you might call the federal government and they don't call you back. No, that's a surprise. But when that happens, we have people in our office, and they have liaisons, and they have to answer us. So if we do a congressional inquiry, they have to answer us, and that's what I do. Just to give you an idea, just in the area of VA, since the first of the year, we have done almost $4 million of retro checks. There was a fellow in Inverness who passed away. His wife applied to be the supplement, and it got all messed up in the process, and the papers were lost, and it didn't happen. They called our office, she called our office, and we were able to get them a retro check for even the benefits that were due up until that point in time. It was about $15,000. Now, I can't always do $15,000, but it happens. And it is an important part of our office. Second is, I go to Washington. I have this little card. It's a voting card. It's has my picture on it even and my signature. I realize this card is only good for 2 years. So on January 3rd of 2019, it's not any good anymore. And so that's why I'm here tonight, to try to earn this back. And if I earn it back, then I can go. I use this to vote. I go in and I put this in a little card carrying a card reader. I vote yes, no, and that's it. And I vote on issues. And I vote the way I feel like it would benefit this district, the state of Florida, and the United States. There's another button, not just red and green. There's a yellow button. I call that the chicken button. And I don't use the chicken button. I use red or green. I went there to vote. No one owns this card except me, and I'm going to use it to the best of my ability. Great to be here. Thank you for letting me come. I pray you'll vote for me.
Mr. Trell, 3-minute opening statement.
Thank you. And thank you for having us here tonight, Citrus Chronicle, and for all of you for attending. My name is Dana Cottrell. I'm running for Congress for District 11. I'm running with the Democratic Party. I was born in New York, and I moved to Hernando County in 1988. And I've lived in Hernando County now for 30 years. When we first got here, we came to Citrus County with the Red Barn ceramics. And I don't know if any of you remember that. My mom and I started to do lots of ceramics when I first got here, and we grew to love Citrus County. I now come to Citrus County often and boat on the rivers. My friend has his boat in county, and we go to the canals, and we do the boating, and we do water skiing. It's a beautiful place to live. I've been a teacher for 25 years. I graduated from USF, received my undergrad and then my master's in library and information science. I taught in Hernando County for 12 years, and then I taught overseas for 13 years with the Department of Defense schools in South Korea and in Germany. I understand the needs of our district. I've lived in district. I've communicated and I've worked in Hernando County. I've been in Sumter, Marion, Lake my entire life. Well, not my entire life, right? Well, really, because I went to Disney. How many of us went to Disney? I love it. One of the things that I think is missing, and one of the reasons that I'm running, is because I think the middle class voice has been forgotten in Washington, D.C. I feel that legislators make decisions and vote against our best interest. And I want to be a voice to represent that. I also feel that women are 51% of our population. We are 51% of our district. And I want to be a voice for women in Washington. What I think I can bring to the district is what I've already done. Working with school boards, working with county commissions, working with business leaders, and working with community leaders. And what we have to do when we talk to people is find out what is it that the district needs, and then bring that money back to the district, from the local to the state to the federal government. I think that connection has been lost by the U.S. House of Representatives. I feel that they go to Washington and they forget where we are. So that is what I would like to bring back to the district. The other thing that I think that we need to bring back to the district is what the House was originally sent to do, was to be more here, home, than in Washington. And that was representative leadership when our government first started. And I want to bring that back. Thank you.
Good job, candidates. We'll go ahead with Mike Wright, and he'll begin questions.
Thank you, Jerry. We're going to start off with Ms. Cottrell with this one, please. If you could give us, please, a grade from A to F of President Trump's performance, and explain yourself.
That's a great question. So for me, being a member of the middle class, I'm not happy with the tax cuts that were implemented. And when I did my taxes this year, the same that I had that would be taken away and then implemented for next year, I would be paying the same tax rate. There would be no difference. What that tax rate has done to my family, though, and to my son, is that it has created a deficit that's going to come up. And that deficit is in the trillions of dollars that we're going to have to find a way to pay for that. And the way that is the proposal to pay for that now is to increase, well, that was fast, Social Security, to decrease Social Security and decrease in the disability and Medicaid. And if you voted for the tax cut, you can't sit there and say, well, I'm not voting for the budget. I think that's irresponsible leadership. So I'd have to say, based on the tweets, based on statements about women, based on disrespect of American citizens, based on not standing up, I don't think, for our country abroad against Russia and saying that he agreed with Putin, I'd have to go with a D. There are people that support the trade negotiations, but I just talked to somebody tonight who has lost 12 jobs from that. But thank you.
Mr. Cottrell.
Well, thank you so much for that question. First of all, I will say that the tax cuts were a good thing for our district. 95% of the people in our district will pay less in taxes. And the reason for that is I've stood beside the tax code, the old tax code, and I could not reach the top of that tax code. Now, just published, all those that would file without itemizing their form which is 95% of the people in our district, it's one page. And it's an awesome thing. And you're going to pay less money than you paid last year. And that's because there is a doubling of the standard deduction. There's tax credits for kids and so forth. And so in the end, I like that. I like what the president's done in that area. I give him a little bit of a deduction. I wouldn't necessarily tweet the way he tweets, but it is what it is. I give him a B+.
This question will start with Congressman Webster. What should be, again, this comes to us from one of our readers, and we appreciate that. What should be done to reduce gun violence in American communities?
I think gun violence in American communities is dictated a lot by the mental health of the people that are perpetrating them. And I think that I sponsored a bill which took 4 years to get it heard. It's now passed, which focuses on the area of mental health. If we don't focus on mental health, we'll never win this war. And in the end, people that are mentally have problems should not have guns. But we should not restrict in any way the right for the citizens to bear guns. It's bear weapons. It's a constitutional right. It's given to us by the Constitution. It's protected in the Constitution, and I would support holding on to that right.
Thank you, Congressman. Mrs. Cottrell?
Thank you. In regard to reducing gun violence in our communities, gun violence isn't just from violent offenders or mental health, it's also from suicide rates. So the increase in mental health facilities is very important, and that's something that needs to be addressed in Citrus County also with your Baker Act facilities and being able to have areas for people who need mental health assistance. But I think we need to have a gun registry and background checks. 84% to 90% of the American population agrees with those two things. And if you're trying to get guns out of hands of criminals and to have those with mental illness to stop having access to guns, then a gun registry and to cut the loopholes and to make sure we have background checks is very important to implement that change. And those are the things that I'm for. And if you are looking at mental health, why would you want somebody who has mental health and mental illness to have a gun or be able to get access to a gun through the loopholes in the gun shows and yard sales? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cottrell. Here's a question I always like to ask when there's an incumbent and a challenger. So it's a little bit different for the two of you. And we'll start with Mrs. Cottrell, but the questions are a little different. Mr. Congressman Webster, if you could give us what you consider your single biggest accomplishment for Citrus County while you've been in office in Congress. And Mrs. Cottrell, if you can give us your single biggest criticism of the incumbent. We'll start with you. No, Mrs. Cottrell.
And I don't think it's just Congressman Webster. I think that, and it might not be with this, again, I do not think that Congress has been meeting the needs of the middle class. I think the middle class and those who are less income than us have suffered the greatest in our society. And I always judge a society and look at a society by how you treat the weakest among you. And when I've been out canvassing and talking to citizens of Citrus County, not just Citrus, but Sumter and Hernando, I'm seeing the homeless rate skyrocket. I'm seeing the children in school homeless, going home, not having a home. I'm seeing that in the vets too. I went to the homeless shelter in Citrus County to see the homeless veterans. And then I went to subsidized housing for seniors. And the seniors show me what's in their paycheck. And then they show me what the cuts are to their paycheck and how they're trying to live month to month. And they cannot. So I want to do the most good for the most amount of people. I care. Somebody asks, why are so many teachers running? Because we have a different bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you. Congressman Webster, the biggest single achievement for Citrus County.
Thank you for that question. I would say this. Florida is a very environmentally sensitive state. And we're unique from a lot of the other states, even ones close by and border us. So I have taken on in an area of water to make certain that we have good policy. I serve on both water subcommittees, one in natural resources, the other in transportation. And because of that work, and because of the work with the Corps of Engineers, and because of the work with some of the environmental groups, I was awarded the Florida Audubon Society Champion of the Everglades Award last year. And that's not easy to do because we were fighting a group of people who were basically saying no to them, no to me, and so forth. We were able to get that done, what we needed to do with the central plan in the Everglades, which affects all of us because our state is a eco-tourism state just as much as it is a Disney World. So I believe that's probably my best accomplishment.
Thank you. We'll now have the 1-minute closings, and we start with Mrs. Cottrell.
I believe that with leadership becomes responsibility. And I think it's a cop-out to say, well, let somebody tweet the way they want to tweet. As a teacher for 25 years, if I ever tweeted such things about my students, about my parents, I would be fired immediately. I would be held accountable for the words that I used, and because it was disrespectful. I believe in respectful governance. No matter your opinion, I want to listen to what you have to say. I've been talking to voters on the phone for the past 5 days. We've sent out 7,000 letters to voters who are out of district, who have already received their absentee ballots. And I want to say 90% of those phone calls were people who wanted to talk to me about items they disagreed on. But they were thankful that somebody listened to them. And that's the kind of leader that I want to be. I want to be responsive to the residents of the district. I want to get to know each and every one of you and talk to you and hear what you have to say. And that's the type of leadership, that's the type of leader I would like to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Congressman West.
Again, thank you for having this forum tonight. The one thing I would like to tell you is I think a representative should represent that district. And this district is the oldest district in the United States. The average age is a little over 63. It's also, most people are on Social Security and Medicare just because of that average age. And not only that, most of them are conservative. Most of them are Republicans. I'm 69 years old. I'm on Medicare. I'm on I'm on Medicare and I'm on Social Security. And I'm a Republican. And I'm a conservative. I believe that I represent the vast majority of this group better than anybody running. And I would love to take this card, renew it, and keep voting for the good things in government. Thanks for letting me come.
Thank you.